Got two other common spring weeds that are highly nutritious and often abundant. First we have creasy greens, also known as upland cress. This is a mountain classic, and if you want to identify it, you can recognize its glossy leaves, and it's quite toothed. And before it shoots up, it's just a rosette on the ground. Pretty specific. This is a lovely, huge version. They're often not this big. And you got to taste them. Some are more bitter and some are more cress-like. This one's quite cress-like, even as it goes to seed, which is surprising because oftentimes they get more bitter as they go to seed. We're going to cut a little handful of this and add it to our lamb's quarters for lunch. Once they go to seed, I usually think I'm done with them, but I'm surprised at how not bitter this particular one is. And then you can see it's going to seed there. You could eat that as a brassica top, which we've covered in another video. And if we do cut it, that'll slow it down going to seed. But I'm okay with it going to seed here because I wouldn't mind more seeding in this area. And then right behind it here, we're going to look at another one, and this is sheep sorrel. One of our other videos talks about French sorrel, which is a cultivar. But this is a common weed. It can be kind of invasive. All of these plants here are spreading from common runners. So you may have parts of the garden where you don't want to let this dominate because it might become a really nasty weed. But if you let it happen where you're okay with it being the plant that rules, you can have an abundant source of really tangy, delicious greens for your salad. Or you could even make a sauce with them. You want to be aware that this plant, like several other plants, including the lamb's quarters we just looked at, are high in oxalic acid. So you don't want to overdo them. This is much higher than the lamb's quarters. Lamb's quarters I eat the heck out of. I'm only eating the heck out of it for about 6 to 8 weeks, so it's no big deal. This here you can cut. Oh, let's talk about the identification of it. It's got a pretty classic leaf. You really can't miss this leaf. Not much else looks like it. I say it's kind of arrowhead shaped. Here they're curling in a little bit. Let's try and get one that's flatter so that you can get a better idea of it. It's got that little flange at the bottom and then it curls up into a point. It's pretty easy to ID, quite delicious. You can come through and just cut a bunch off and it'll come right back. You're probably not going to want to take the time to harvest enough to make a soup from because it's a lot of little leaves, but it's wonderful in salads or for flavoring other dishes. It'd be great as an addition to a soup. So we have quite a little lunch here between the lamb's quarters, the sheep sorrel, and the creasy greens. It's going to be piquant and zesty and delicious. And then a final thing we're going to talk about is the what's often known as sour grass. It's in flower right here. And this is very high in oxalic acid and a classic for kids. Kids call it sour grass, and you know its Latin name is oxalis, and it's a very common weed. To me, it's too high in oxalic acid to really eat a lot of it, but a little bit in a salad is fine. And it's fine to munch on. It's totally edible, but just way high in oxalic acid, as you might get by its name, which is oxalis. So it's another edible, but not a favorite of mine. All right, enjoy dining in the wild.